What is up, everybody? This is Just Wayne. Welcome to the Just Wayne Show. I'm so excited to be with you all tonight, in part because this is something I'm trying to do on a more regular basis. I'm trying to come to you every night and talk about all the things that have been happening in the world, everything from pop culture to politics. And the crazy thing is, I'm usually like spending the day going through and like seeing different stuff happening, getting different, updates and notifications from NPR or from Associated Press or whomever. Of course, we all have Aaron on our page, like big news guys, breaking news guys, got some big news for you tonight, right? Like all of those things are happening on a regular basis. And I'm like in between work meetings or in between picking up and dropping off my kids being like, yo, let me really quickly, drop this particular story or talk about this. And what I want to do is, yes, I'll continue to do that, but I want to take some time every night and just go, yo, here's what happened today. Here's all of the stuff that's happening in the world. And that's what the Just Wayne Show is. The Just Wayne Show is me simply showing up and saying, thank you so much for coming to my TED Talk. We got a lot of ground to cover. And so here we go. I saw somebody already in the chat say, can we talk about Cory Booker? Yes. Let us start by continuing to bask in the glory of Cory Booker, because I have a whole segment that I want to call Cory in the House. Now, if you remember, there was a spinoff of That's So Raven called Cory in the House. I didn't really watch Cory in the House. I feel like Cory in the House was made for my little sister, right? Like we both watched That's So Raven, but she watched it because I was watching it because it was coming on when I was watching Disney Channel. But then like, boom, that became her show. And yesterday or over the day and some change before, Cory Booker was in the house for 25 hours. Now, there is one frustrating thing that I have seen, because what happened was historic. I stopped by my grandparents' house tonight because my grandma called me and she was like, can you come help me? It was like something with her cable. And listen, if I'm going to listen to anybody, I'm going to listen to old Black folks. Right. And so my grandma called me to come over and help her with some stuff. And when I got there, she was like, do you see your boy Cory Booker? Like, did you see your boy? Man, he and I was like, yeah. I was so, and my papa, I call him Papa, my grandpa, he'll be 93 years old this year. He was like, no, he got up there, he did that. He broke that record. And so we were just talking about the moment. And there's an element, right, where when something like this happens, only on the left is everything questioned as to whether or not it's good enough. What Cory Booker did was, of course, historic in breaking the record, and also was precedent setting. I think it was important for Cory Booker to make it very clear that as stuff comes up, the idea of the filibuster is not just a threat. It is something that we're going to show up and actively do. And I'm going to show you that I will take the time a couple days ahead of time, and I will start fasting. I'll stop eating. I'll start slowing down how much I drink water to ensure that when it is time to get up there and talk, I can be up there and do my thing. And so there's the historical element, there's the precedent setting element of it, but also, and this is so important, there is the performative nature of it. And I need us as a collective to think about the words that we use, because despite what is happening in the world, words do have meaning. It's one of the reasons why I saw Nick Wright. He did a post about Jackie Robinson. And he said, the idea of saying, well, Jackie Robinson wasn't a DEI hire. And he was like, yes, he is. But DEI isn't derogatory. We're letting the right wing turn DEI into a slur. We let them turn woke into a slur. And by doing that, we have started to use it as a slur ourselves, despite the fact that it has actual meaning. And so what Cory Booker did was indeed performative, but politics is theater. Like, that's what politics is. Politics is a collection of theatrical events. The way that votes are cast, the way that campaigns are run, the way that everything happens, it is just theater. It is all performance. Like, at the end of the day, performance is not a bad thing. The idea of something being performative, right? Oh, it was just him up there just performing. Yeah, of course he was up there performing for 25 hours, right? But his performance was good. And so I think there's this idea, there's this cannibalism that exists in left-wing spaces. Anybody who's left of center for some reason feels the need to critique themselves at a level that is unprecedented in the grand scheme of the political spectrum. Like, when somebody does something, we should acknowledge the thing that they did. And what Cory Booker did is he set not only a precedent, he set a record, but he brought a performance to the House floor in order to say, I do know that the Republicans own the House. I know that Republicans hold the Senate. I know that Republicans have the executive branch. And I also know that for all intents and purposes, the right wing is dominated in the judges, in the judiciary. I know that. And so, like, that's the reality. And so where we can step in and perform, we will. And the performance was necessary because the performance was happening in the middle of an election, in the middle of a consequential election in Wisconsin that Elon Musk tried to purchase. And the will of the people prevailed. That's what happened. Now, it should be noted also in the Senate today that a bipartisan, and I call it bipartisan light, a bipartisan piece of legislation was passed in the Senate to bring back and roll back the tariffs that Donald Trump is enacting on Canada. Senator Tim Kaine, and you probably remember Senator Tim Kaine as the running mate to Hillary Clinton back in 2016. He brought forth this bill that said, no, he don't get to do this. And there were 4 Republicans that voted with all of the Democrats in order to pass this and send it to the House. The 4 Republicans, if I remember correctly, are Susan Collins, Lisa Murkowski, Mitch McConnell, and Rand Paul. All 4 of those make total sense to me because Mitch McConnell, I think he understands that he created Frankenstein's monster in order to reshape the judiciary. That was his goal, and he created Frankenstein's monster. He thought the judiciary he was creating was going to protect him from Trump. No. Then you got Rand Paul, who's just contrarian. And you've got Susan Collins and Lisa Murkowski, who show up and do the right thing 33% of the time. And so you have, on the one hand, this performative action. On the one hand, you have Cory Booker standing on the Senate floor for 25 hours. And then on the other hand, you have that empowering actions against what will be the most catastrophic economic policy in our lifetimes. Like, the only economic event that is equivalent to the tariffs that Donald Trump is trying to roll out, or has announced today that he would roll out, was COVID. And the fact that we didn't respond to COVID in the way that we should have put us in a worse economic position. And here's the wild part about that folks don't ever really want to talk about is Joe Biden gets elected in 2020. He takes over the decimated economy that was decimated because Donald Trump refused to acknowledge the reality that COVID-19 existed and that we needed to do something about it from a medical standpoint. And also, we needed to do something to make sure that the people had access to the care they need. Like, the military, for all intents and purposes, should have been building facilities to test people. And then once the vaccine showed up, they should have been building facilities to roll out that vaccine to make sure that everybody had access to it. But no, misinformation, disinformation, all comes into play. Donald Trump fumbles the COVID experience. Joe Biden leads the COVID recovery. And we had the fastest growing post-COVID economy of any developed nation. We were recovering faster than everybody else. Yes, we had inflation. Yes, more needed to be done. And as a person who personally believes that every person should have access to healthcare, every person should have access to food, water, shelter, every person should have access to income. Like, I'm at that level of things. Like, as a person who believes that, I wish that we were doing more. What is considered radical left Marxist communist ideology in the United States is considered like centrist in other parts of the world. That's just the truth. And yet, the Biden administration came in and pushed things forward. Now, we don't even need to have a conversation or argument about the atrocities that the Biden administration not only allowed, but pushed forward in Gaza. I'm fully aware of that. And that is the stain on Joe Biden's legacy, as far as I'm concerned. And yet, here we stand with giving the economy back to the guy who crashed it in the first place and expecting different results. It's so silly in the grand scheme of, like, it's so silly at the end of the day to think that Donald Trump was going to do something that was good for people. But there are people who are that silly. So we are seeing the Senate taking action. We're seeing that the House Democrats are unified behind Hakeem Jeffries. We're seeing states' attorneys generals bring forward lawsuits on a regular basis that are stopping the Trump administration, so much so that Senate Republicans and House Republicans want to pass a bill to limit the jurisdiction of federal judges that are disagreeing with the illegal activities of Donald Trump. And yet, the people are standing, the people are fighting, the people are doing what needs to be done. So that's kind of on the political front. A moment like a performative moment like what Cory Booker did is a catalyst for change. It reminds me of the Star Wars movies. One of the things that I love about them is the Star Wars movies do a good job of talking about how hope is built through tiny actions. So even if it's like, because when the resistance steps up, even if they only win a small battle, you see how hope builds throughout the galaxy. And I need us all to lean into hope. I feel very Obama right now. If we can, lean into hope and recognize that hope will lead us through, right? Like, can we lean into that reality? And here's the truth. And I'm speaking to all the people who are watching this right now, all the people who will watch this. I just named a bunch of Black folks who are pushing this thing forward. We need help. Like, we need help. It is Hakeem Jeffries holding the line in the House. Cory Booker saying, Chuck Schumer, you did not do what you were supposed to do. I will push us forward in the Senate. We need help because there is a moment that can be built. These tariffs could be the straw that break the camel's back. Every time something happens, I hope it's the straw that breaks the camel's back. This camel's strong. But we have to push forward. So, as far as politics go, that's one of the big things that, once again, I saw someone say, I heard Obama, as far as politics go, that's one of the big things that no matter what happens, from Chicago to Los Angeles, all the way out to the Appalachians, when they say we can't, we say, yes, we can. And so there's so much happening in politics. It's going to keep happening every day. My hope is to be here every day, talking more and more about the work that's being done. And like I said, between Hakeem Jeffries and people like, we need more for him, but he's holding that caucus in line, and Cory Booker stepping up. Like, and speaking of Black men standing on business, the second topic I want to talk about tonight is Ryan Clark had Andrew Schulz on the Pivot podcast. Now, if you don't know the backstory on this, Andrew Schulz is a comedian. Ryan Clark is a former NFL player who hosts a podcast called The Pivot. And what happened was the James and Fuhad were on Andrew Schulz's podcast, and they were talking about the Black wife effect. That was one of my favorite trends that happened over the summer, because I was like, okay, look at these white boys getting upgraded. Because the truth is, as a person who lives in the great state of Minnesota, where I believe that there are more interracial relationships here than anywhere, I will look and say, oh, that man's wife is Black. You could it's just an aura. This is a something you just know, just like deep, like in this area, right? Like you just know that that dude's wife is black. And so they're talking about the black wife effect. And Andrew Schulz is like, oh, what, abuse? Like they grow out beards because they're trying not to get slapped, right? People didn't like that joke. They didn't like that James and Fuhad didn't check him in the moment. They kind of like, like there wasn't like agreement, like, oh yeah, no, those black ladies, they're really doing that. Like so it was such a weird moment. And people called out and kind of canceled James and Fuhad for that moment. And then you had Kendrick Lamar saying in Whacked Out Murals, never let a white comedian speak on black women, that's law. And Andrew Schulz took that personally because he was like, Kendrick's talking about me. This whole album is about me. Now, one thing about Andrew Schulz I learned through this entire thing is that man lacks self-awareness and has a gigantic ego. Now, part of it is you don't get to be successful at stuff without having a big ego. I don't care who you are. You actually have to believe that you deserve to be on those stages. But can you have control of your ego? That's the difference between people who crash out and those who don't. And so, yes, I agree. Vlad TV was another one of those where it was like he be doing too much. That line by Kendrick was not directed at Andrew Schulz. He never said his name. It was directed at all the white comedians who make jokes about black women and the black dudes who sit there and kiki, giggle, joke next to them and not checking them in the moment. And so there it was. That's happening. James and Fuhad take the hit. Kendrick mentions it. And on the other side of Kendrick mentioning Andrew Schulz was running around like, oh my gosh, I'm so that, like he's just, oh my gosh, they're talking about me. Everything's about me. So then Ryan Clark, who has a podcast called The Pivot, Ryan Clark responds and was like, I didn't like that. But let me explain to you why I didn't like it. Here's my experience with black women. And he talked about his mom and he talked about his wife who was there for him when he was going through a major illness and sickness. And so Andrew Schulz gets on the Shannon Sharp podcast and was like, oh, he's so corny. Oh, back up a little bit. I'm sorry, I missed something. Andrew Schulz, when Kendrick said something, Andrew Schulz responded and said that, Kendrick's so small, I could just essay him. Like he was joking about being in a prison cell with Kendrick and essaying that man. So it got really weird real quick because I don't know why that was. I don't know what made him make that joke, but he made it nonetheless. And so all of this is happening. Andrew Schulz is running around being like, Ryan Clark responded to me and he's a clout chaser and he's corny. So Ryan Clark, I need you at some point to go YouTube Ryan Clark highlights. That man was a menace on a football field. He did not care about his body. He was running through stuff. But his podcast is built around the idea of talking with, and healing in black maleness, in black manhood. And so Ryan invites Andrew onto the podcast. I think this was yesterday. And Andrew was like, you were saying this like I don't understand, and you're painting me in a corner. And Ryan was like, I actually don't care about you at all. I'm speaking to what you're communicating. And what you're communicating about black women. I was saying, that is not true. Here's my experience. And what was so interesting to me is it felt like what Andrew Schulz took offense to was the notion of even being considered to be wrong. It was like, Andrew was like, how dare you tell me that I don't know something? And Ryan was like, I don't care what you do or do not know. Here's what you said. I responded to what you said. And Andrew's like, well, however you feel about a joke is how you feel. Now, mind you, however you feel about a joke is how you feel, while at the same time saying that Kendrick responding to him was worthy of essay. At the same time, running on to Shannon Sharp's podcast and calling Ryan Clark corny and a clout chaser. So it seems to me that the idea of you can respond to the joke however you want to is disingenuous at best. Sorry, my daughter just asked me for Senate time on something. Okay. There we go. I'm never not parenting, apparently. So Ryan Clark is not pressing Andrew Schulz. Ryan Clark is really saying, like, bro, I actually don't care what you know or what you don't know. I don't care really how you feel. All I'm saying to you is you said this. And I didn't come out here and be like, he's wrong, he's trash. He's like, I didn't call you any names. I just said, here's my experience. And Andrew's responding as if he did. Now, this was, I think, one of the most fascinating elements is Andrew is responding to these Black men as if they have done something to him for the thing that Andrew said in the first place. And at no point have any of the Black men that I have mentioned said anything negative about Andrew. And so I was proud of Ryan Clark. Ryan Clark is a heel. I see him as a healed individual, and he stood on business in that moment. He didn't let him kiki his way out of it. He didn't let Andrew Schulz joke his way out of the situation, out of the experience. He was like, no, this is what you said. This is how I felt. And the lack of self-awareness, as I see it, in Andrew Schulz did not give him the ability to just listen in the first place. And what I'm finding is that the skill of just listening to what someone said, hearing them, and responding accordingly is severely lacking in this world, on the internet, and unfortunately, in a lot of conversations surrounding men. Like I'm seeing this as a constant, and I'm saying that as a man. I'm saying that as a father of boys. My youngest turned 7 today. Like I'm saying that as a brother. I'm saying that as a friend. That there is a lack of listening to understand. That I'm not going to speak for or about women because I'm not one, and that's not the spot that I've been asked to be in here. But it reminds me of on Hitch. If you all have seen Hitch, Hitch is my comfort film, and in there, like at the very beginning, basic principles. No woman wakes up saying, "God, I hope I don't get swept off my feet today." Now she might say it's a really bad time for me, right? Like those are a whole monologue, and so he says, "You cannot use what you do not have." So if you're shy, be shy. If you're outgoing, be outgoing. Oh, I'm not outgoing. That's okay. She may not want the whole truth, but she does want the real you. She may not want to see it all at once, but she does want to see it. So listen to what she is saying and respond. Listen, respond, right? And so like the idea of listening to what someone is saying and responding accordingly was on full display when YG just dropped a new song called 2004. Now, I was sitting I think I was just sitting on the couch. I think I was just sitting on the couch scrolling, and TikTok pops up for YG's new song. And the song opens with him saying, "When I was younger, I was great. By a B twice my age. Picked me up from the school, took me to hers, and got laid. Ever since that day, I haven't seen things the same." And I was like, hey, yo, like that is a wild way to open a song. And then I felt for him because in the music video, he's literally sitting there talking to somebody I presume to be a therapist, but that's just my interpretation of the video as I saw it at the time. And he talked about how that has really messed up his mind, how he does messed up things because of that. What's wild is how the conversation really quickly came to being like, bro, just keep it rap. Bro, don't nobody want to hear that. Bro, if I was younger and some woman picked me up from school, bro, that's luck, bro. He was lucky. Like the conversation got real weird for him to have explicitly said what he said and the conversation to quickly turn to like, bro, you're doing too much. Why are you even talking about that? And the reality is the experiences, and I'll speak specifically, the experiences of Black men in this country, the harm that is done to them by family members and friends, while at the same time not creating the space for them to have a safe place, to talk about the things that are happening, to heal and to grow is sad. I think that YG opens with that line because that is not a unique story, and he frames it the way he framed it because there are so many young men for whom that is their story. I mean, you can Google it right now. Lil Wayne said the same thing, that Birdman put him in a room with a woman, and he says, I was raped and I loved it. Like, that's the spot that we're sitting in, where you have young men who are experiencing violence and have no one to turn to and are told that they should actually enjoy the violence that's happening against them. We have to do a better job. Something I'm committed to as a father is developing whole human beings. Like, I want to make sure that my sons and my daughters are well-rounded, whole people who know how to express their emotions, know how to receive the expression of someone else's emotions, know how to advocate for themselves, know how to allow for others to advocate for themselves. They have self-awareness. They can see who and what they are. They understand the spaces that they're in. They have social awareness. They can read the people around them and getting those things to happen. Like, they can read the people around them and know how to navigate accordingly, right? They have responsible decision-making skills. Like, they know how to build community. I'm committed to this reality because the world has created a safe space for underdeveloped humans who were raised by underdeveloped humans. And there is no blame or shame that is being placed in that statement. No hate, no shade, no lemonade. I promise you, we are all doing the best we can. And like, I know there was the whole controversy recently about Chappell and her statements around parenting. And I just want to say, as a parent of 4, parenting is trash. It's trash. Like, I love my kids more than my life. And parenting is the hardest thing I have ever done in my entire life, because you are never good enough as a parent. Being good enough is not a thing. It's impossible because you are responsible for another human. And would I trade them for anything? Not a chance. Not a chance. And that's the nuance of that conversation. The nuance is she's saying, I'm watching my friends and that looks like it's trash. Why would anyone want that? And I'm like, you're saying that you don't want that, and that's awesome. God bless you, do your thing. If it does not apply, let it fly. I wasn't offended by what Chappell said. I was like, yo, I mean, maybe one of them. Listen, I have a joke. It is a joke. It is a joke. Like I said, I have 4 humans that I'm responsible for. And my joke for a long time when we were getting ready to go places was, I have 2 kids too many, because getting all 4 of them to go somewhere was hard. But I was like, I only got 2, I'd be straight. But it's a joke. It's a joke. But parenting is like so unbelievably difficult. And because it's difficult, we have to, as parents, do the healing work ourselves. I am actively working on myself and for my children. Like, I know that if I don't deal with certain things, then they're going to deal with them. I know that there are ways that I respond to them sometimes that are a byproduct of my lack of healing. And then I acknowledge those spaces that I'm not healed at times with them. I tell them the work I'm trying to do to be better at it. And then I tell them how they can expect me to be better. Because I want to train them that someone just going, I'm sorry, is not enough. It's not enough to just be like, I'm sorry. There needs to be a plan of action. You need to talk about what that looks like. You need to be active in that healing process. And so for me, being a parent has forced my growth in a lot of ways. Like, it's forced me to be better for myself. And in being better for myself, I'm modeling for them. So something when they're having conflict, sometimes I'm like, I'm not stepping in the middle of it. I want to see what happens. There's other times when they're experiencing conflict, I'm like, that's not, do you like it when he yells at you? So do you think it's appropriate to yell at him? If you don't like it, why would you do it back? Like, and it seems like simple things, but doggone it, we all do that. We do stuff to people we don't like when they do it to us, and we grown. Let's turn 35 last week. So like, my kids are, my oldest will be 13 in July, 11. My two of my babies they're both 7. One turns 8 at the end of this month, so they're Irish twins. So in essence, 13, 11, 8, and 7. And like that 13-year-old, man, he's so incredibly gifted, and he's so smart, and he's such a kind human. And I'm actively fighting the hormones that are showing up for him. The reality, as a person who was an assistant principal in middle school, I know what 7th grade is like. It's trash. So fighting that time in his life, fighting the influences that are showing up for him in his life at this point, like at war with the red pill ideology that seeps into the streamers that he might watch. Man. And I'm like, I want to see him be the best. That 11-year-old, like, she is so talented. She is so gifted. Like, I've never seen anyone who at the drop of a hat can just perform like she can. It's incredible to watch. And I'm like, God, I have a little black girl. I have a pretty little black girl. And I want her to see herself as beautiful. Like, I want her to see what I see in her. And I have to combat all the messages that are going to start showing up here over the next several years about who she is and what she is and what it looks like and what that means. All right. My soon-to-be 8-year-old daughter, my God, like, I've never seen anyone who can find contentment like she can. Like, that little girl can if you turn around, come back to where she is, she set up a fort. She's made herself comfortable. She's got her snacks. She's got her drinks. She got her tablet. She's ready to go. That is the chillest human I've ever met, with the loudest voice ever. And I'm like, God, this beautiful little girl. I want to show her what it looks like. I want to show my girls what it looks like to love them. Oh, yes. Yes, very much. She's a Taurus, very much Taurus energy. I want to show them what it looks like to be loved. Well, my youngest, God, he's firecracker. Just a ball of energy. And he's so funny. He told me the other day, he's like, Dad, I give the best hugs. And I was like, you do give the best hugs. He's so doggone talented. And he's the youngest. He's a baby. He wants to do everything his older brother does. I'm like, okay, where does that go? Like, where's the influence? And so I understand that it is my responsibility to grow so I could be there for them, to help them grow so they can be the best versions of themselves. And what I'm seeing, whether it's Ryan Clark defending Black women, YG being open about his experience, is that I'm seeing, like, the Dissect podcast is making its way through Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers right now, which is blessing me. Like, that is like a how-to guide for my own deliverance, right? I'm seeing Black men be open, be vulnerable, take a step up. And I'm just desperate to see us elevate those voices. There are so many negative, like, stories and viewpoints about Black men out there right now. There was a whole section of this I was going to do about educational attainment and like how Black men are enrolling in HBCUs less than they have ever before. And I'm like, yeah, I could run with that story. And I might talk about it later on in the week if there's like less going on. But my goodness, there's so much good happening. Can we elevate the Cory Bookers of the world? Can we elevate the YGs of the world? Who he speaks about things he speaks about because he's come out of that gang world. He's come out of that hurt. He's come out of that abuse. Right? Ryan Clark, who's gone through major things in his life, and he's creating this platform for this space. I want to see us continue to elevate these voices. It is really easy to get stuck in feeling like the world is falling down, and it is. The world is crumbling, it's falling apart. I was screaming like my hair was on fire that democracy was on the ballot in November, and democracy lost. I was screaming it, and we're seeing that it's lost, right? And at the same time, I think there's something to be said about the fact that if we look, we can see examples and stories of people, places, things, and ideas that are finding ways to thrive. Like they're finding ways to thrive in the middle of this chaos. And to me, that matters. Like the world can't fall completely apart. I got small humans that need me. I'm going to fight for this. I'm going to fight for this place. I'm going to fight for this world to be better. Because Wayne deserves to grow up and I'm saying Wayne, like my oldest, he deserves to grow up in a world where he can succeed. Like for us, college wasn't even a question. Not even a question. We knew we were going. My parents met at Tuskegee University. They met on a college campus. There was never a question of whether or not we were going. I want my kids to grow up in a world where they can take stuff further and be better, that the world will be better. And we see so many examples. And so I'm almost out of time for tonight, but we're seeing so many examples of where in the world people are stepping up. And that's my commitment. That's why I'm going to be here. That's why I'm going to be right here with y'all. Monday through Thursday. Getting out here talking about the things that are happening. Because I wholeheartedly believe, as crazy as the world is, that we also need joy. And I once said that I'm the face of Black joy, embody Black peace, product of Black love. I just rinse and repeat. I meant that. Like when I was on my way out of town for my birthday weekend, you know, they have it where you stand there and they like, you hand them your ID and then you like stand back and you take the picture. Well, I'm not one of the people who would be like, I don't care what time of day it is. I'm like, and the lady was like, if you should just go around the world and just smile at people. When people, it would change people's lives. They would feel better. And I was like, oh, thank you so much, right? I wholeheartedly believe that finding joy, finding the stories about the things that are going well, being real, being in reality about the tariffs and being in reality about the taxes and being in reality about the terminations and being in reality about the departments that are being stripped and being in reality about the illegalities of Doge and being in reality about the climate fault. Like all of these things are real. And I will get on here and talk to you about them. I'll talk to you about what's happening in pop culture and be like, oh my gosh, why was Drake copying Kendrick? Like, I'll get on here and do all that. And ensure that we remember that joy is still there. Like joy is still there. And our joy is resistance. If I could find a way to smile, I could find a way to keep going. And if the only reason you got to smile is I'm on here dancing and talking about a denim jacket from the Gap, then that's what we're going to do. But we're in this together. So thank you so much for coming to my TED Talk. And thank you so much for coming to the Just Wayne Show. Like I said, I'll be here Monday through Thursday, live, and then posted later on YouTube, clipped and posted across socials. TikTok is probably going away here in a couple days. All of a sudden, by the way, didn't even talk about this. Amazon is out here like, oh, we'll buy it. And I'm like, don't let Bezos get this app. Do not let Bezos get this app. Now, part of that is I'm sure that the TikTok shop is valuable to Amazon. But don't let Bezos get this app. Apparently, TikTok's not taking that one seriously. But I'll be here Monday through Thursday and on live, on YouTube, talk about music on Fridays. But thank you all so much for coming to the Just Wayne Show. Thanks for coming to my TED Talk. I love y'all, and I'll see y'all tomorrow night. Peace.